thank you for tuning in to another video. This week's video is going to be on the November 2023 house price index and benchmark price numbers. I'm going to switch it up a little bit in this video. We'll be looking at Hastings, Prince Edward County just like normal, but today I'm going to be looking at Greater Toronto Area prices and HPI, as well as Canada-wide benchmark price and HPI, just to see how things stack up against each other, see if there's any outliers in the data. And I mean, like it or not, Toronto is a huge driver on our market. So knowing what's going on there gives pretty good indications for what's going on in our market. So without further ado, let's get into the data. First data point we'll look at is HPI, House Price Index. Hastings, Prince Edward County, 350.6. That's up 2.4% year over year, up 2% year to date. Greater Toronto, 342.3, that's up 0.1% year over year and 1% year to date. And then finally, Canada-wide, 302.5, that's up 0.6% year over year and 2% year to date. So interestingly enough, looking at these numbers, Hastings and Prince Edward County actually has the highest home price index out of these three. If you don't know what home price index is, this is basically a base value of 100 of what the average or benchmark home cost from January of 2005 and how much increases in price we've seen since then. So percentage wise, you've seen more price growth in Hastings and Prince Edward County from their base value or base home of 100 since 2005 compared to Toronto and Canada. That would be probably because the area's grown more since then, whereas Toronto is already established market, so you already had high elevated prices there in 2005, and then Canada-wide would have had, like, the major drivers back then would have been Montreal, Vancouver, Toronto anyways, so still like an established market. So I think that's the explanation for HPI being higher in this area than others. Next data point, and probably the one you like to see more, actually kind of can quantify things, benchmark price. So Hastings, Prince Edward County, benchmark price sitting at 560,600. Percentage increases will be the same here because, like I've said in previous videos, if you haven't seen, benchmark price and HPI, they're like the percentages are the same and they're the same metrics. They're just different numbers that they spit out. Greater Toronto, $1,081,300 benchmark price. Keep in mind, this is all asset classes, including condominium. So it's not just detached homes, but it is residential only. Canada-wide, 719. So you may look at this and say, wow, Hastings, Prince Edward County is still cheap compared to obviously Toronto, but even around Canada. And obviously Canada's influenced by Toronto and Montreal and Vancouver, like I said before, but still about $160,000 below the Canada-wide benchmark price in our area. So although prices have shot up and real estate is still, unaffordable and it's very expensive for a lot of people's comparisons, it's still, you could say, cheap compared to other places in Canada. So a little update on Hastings, Prince Edward County. I have some numbers here that also just came out today. 147 sales across the area, 325 new listings, 935 active listings. So if you do the calculation there, that is 6.3 months of inventory. So we're seeing more months of inventory. Like in pandemic times, we were like 1 month, 2 months of inventory, but the quality inventory is still selling. And keep in mind, this is over the whole Hastings, Prince Edward County area. So that's taking into account like rural properties in Bancroft and North, and then, even stuff in the county that's sitting over the winter, because quality inventory is still moving. If it's priced right, it's still getting multiple offers sometimes. And, those quality homes still aren't having trouble selling. Okay, so quick screen recorder on my new favorite tool in the world, Loom. So right here is Greater Toronto Area. This is from November of 2018 to November of 2023. So last 5 years. And we're tracking benchmark price here. So we see when we're looking at the year-to-date numbers and year-over-year numbers, basically January of 2023, Toronto had a big increase in the spring market when Bank of Canada held rates, like a 10% increase. And since they've pretty much lost all of that gain. Same thing with Canada. Not as drastic as Toronto, about a 7 or 8% increase here. with the spring market, which obviously would have been influenced by Toronto and Vancouver, Montreal, and then a decline again. And then if we look at Quinte District, which is Hastings, Prince Edward County, that's the old name for our board, January, we go up a little bit in the spring, and then it's been kind of level since. So in Toronto, Canada, 5 straight months, month over month, of declining HPI and benchmark price. Whereas Hastings, Prince Edward County, in the last 5 months, we've actually been up 3 of the months and down only 2. So if you see here, seems like our market's less volatile compared to what's going on in Canada, Toronto. Obviously, Canada is driven, like I said, by these big markets, but you can see how much consumer sentiment plays into, oh, they held rates, the market's going up again, let's get in. And then, they increase rates again and consumer sentiment goes down. So is Toronto and Canada going to go for another ride if Bank of Canada decreases rates? Maybe, potentially, but good to see that our market is stable, because it just makes it a lot easier, especially if you're buying and selling in the same market, to know what you're going to get and what you're going to buy for, and the market's not going to run away from you in 1 or 2 months. That's it for this week's video. Quick overview of HPI and benchmark price numbers for November of 2023. Hopefully you found this video informative. I like taking a step back from our local market and comparing it to what's going on in Toronto and what's going on in Canada. Sometimes helps put things into perspective, because although we've seen, big price growth here and the market does seem kind of volatile and crazy, it really is pretty steady and in pretty good shape when we're comparing to other markets, which aren't in trouble by any means, but just we're doing better, it would seem, by this data, right? And strong population growth coming to the area, income versus house purchase price is not as skewed as other places in Canada, especially in Toronto, major metros. So yeah, we're in pretty good shape considering all these external factors, and rate cuts on the horizon potentially. So thank you for tuning in. As always, you can contact me. All my info is in the description below, kehoerealestate.com. Book a call with me. And thank you for watching. Stay tuned next week for a new video.